Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Career Evangelist Podcast. I'm excited today because we are also welcoming a new guest with us. And here's the question. What if the secret to becoming a leader, a better leader, parent, coach, or colleague could be summed up in 4 steps? Today's guest is here to prove that it can be done. Sam Schriver, Executive Vice President of the Center for Leadership Studies, brings 45 years of mastery behind one of the most powerful leadership framework, and is here with us today to share this framework with us. And with that, let's welcome our guest. Hello, Sam. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I sincerely appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to chat with you. I think you do valuable work. I
Thank
think the whole idea of being a career evangelist is a wonderful, wonderful thing for all the generations that are in the workplace. So, and I have had the opportunity to listen to several of your podcasts, and you do a really good job. So, do a good job with this one. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Precious Sam, thank you very much for your kind word. I'm hoping to do a good job. It's conversation, so you and I we are gonna be talking. So with that, Sam, 45 years, that's a long time to work with any frameworks. So I want to know, and I want you to educate us, what has kept situational leadership feeling fresh and relevant to you personally?
Yeah, it is interesting. And that was a very nice way of saying that I'm old. 45 years of experience. It sounds different than saying, wow, look at you, you're 70. But but yeah, I have been honored to be in the field of leadership development for that amount of time. I actually started my career in Escondido, California at 230 West 3rd Avenue. I had the opportunity to see Dr. Paul Hersey, the founder of the Center for Leadership Studies, present situational leadership. And I was just talking about this the other day. It's sort of like, when you're 20 something and you don't really know what you want to do in life. You know a few things that you don't want to do, but so you're searching. And that was one of the main reasons that as I would imagine most of your audiences, they're searching. That's why they come to an evangelist, right? But I was searching. It's one of the main reasons I went to graduate school, and it seemed like I was so impressionable at the time. Like almost every class I took, that's what I wanted to do. When I was in a marketing class, I was going to get into marketing. When I was in an advertising class, I was going to get into advertising. And I really gravitated towards the organizational behavior stuff, just whatever that was. And then in 1983, I had the opportunity to watch Dr. Hersey present for the first time. It was my initial exposure to situational leadership. And suffice to say, at the end of that day of training, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to become an evangelist for this. This is an incredible model. It has reach far beyond the workplace. It can really help people, and so the majority of my career has been spent, working with situational leadership.
Okay. So for those who are going to be listening to this show and who has never heard of that word, situational leadership, how would you describe it to them, maybe in 1 or 2 minutes?
Yeah, well, if you haven't heard of situational leadership, what's wrong with you? But I won't I won't think anything negative about. But in all seriousness, situational leadership, there's some titles that just tell you what the product is. Like for instance, in our industry, crucial conversations. When you hear there's a best-selling book called Crucial Conversations. And I think that title just tells you some conversations are different than others, right? Well, with situational leadership, just the name itself, I think sort of would suggest that it depends, right? So, what leadership style should you use? Well, it depends, right? It depends on the task. It depends on the person that you're trying to influence. It depends on their experience, their confidence. There's a series of very practical variables if you are a leader that you need to think about before you act, because no style of leadership in and of itself is good or bad. So empowerment is can be good,
Mhm.
except when it's abandonment, except when you have people that wish they were getting some instruction on what they should be doing. Providing somebody with direction can be good, but micromanaging obviously isn't. And so, like, whatever style you want to pick, like the easiest, quickest way to think about situational leadership is the two words, it depends.
Yeah.
That your approach as a leader needs to be dictated by what you're trying to accomplish and the people you're trying to accomplish it with. One of your podcasts that I had the opportunity to listen to, it talked about planning. It talked about the important. I think it was one of your first steps. It was like, if you want to have a good, you got to plan. You got to figure out where you're going. You got to figure out what you're doing, and that's really the first thing with situational leadership. But well, it's really almost a direct parallel. It's like you need to be aligned as a leader with the person that you're influencing on the task that you need to accomplish. That's first and foremost. What are we doing, and can we agree on that? And then, secondly, let's get some sense for how experienced or what's the level of ability and willingness the follower, whoever that happens to be, has for performing that task. How much experience have they had? How confident are they that they can pull it off? How motivated are they to pull it off? And when you answer those questions, it really sort of leads you as a leader, if you take the time to do it. It kind of puts you as a leader in a set of circumstances where you say, well, should I empower? Should I provide direction? Or should I be somewhere in between those two things and be more participative and discussion oriented? So that is, the essence of situational leadership.
And thank you very much, Sam, for explaining that. I like the way you put it. You said it depends. And what I'm hearing from that is that there's no one size fits all. Leaders must be able to pivot depending on the situation and react or respond or give guidance based on that situation to fit their followers and help them to perform. So that's what I'm hearing. Now you have a book that is going to be out in next month. Congratulations, Sam.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I'm going to ask, so what was the one thing you absolutely had to say that no prior version of this model has captured in your book?
Yeah, I think, like, again, the primary essence, and the name of the book is Situational Leadership, by the way, and I co-authored that, as you know, with Susie Bishop. And I think, like, one of the primary things that we try to get across in the book is, and this will sound very fundamental, but you are a practical guy. Like, you're described as like this is a no nonsense podcast, very practical. So that is that's very much in alignment with what situational leadership does and is. It's a leadership model that comes from 50 years worth of academic studies, but it's put into a language that everybody can understand. It's a practical, common sense language. What is the task? What's the readiness level of the person to perform it? And then what style should I use? And then finally, are things getting better or getting worse? Because nothing ever stays the same. Things are either developing or they're regressing. But to your question, I think one of the, if not the primary thing that we try to get across in the book is like, who is a leader? Well, we define leadership as an attempt to influence.
Mhm.
So by design, that's a multi-directional thing, right?
Right.
So if you are a new hire within an organization, can you be a leader? Yeah. In many cases, should you be a leader? Yes. And so people have a tendency to think about leadership as it's driven by a hierarchy, or it's your position in the organization. And in some cases, that has something to do with it. But we use leadership in the context of writing the situational leadership book as, anytime you're attempting to influence anybody to do something, you're engaging in leadership. I think the other thing about that, most people learn situational leadership at work, right? And it's focused on, how do I help people become more productive? And maybe from a follower standpoint, how do I communicate to my boss what I need as a follower to be most productive? Maybe that's more direction, maybe that's more empowerment, whatever it happens to be. But when you learn this model at work, does it help you as a parent? Yeah. Does it help you in your community? Sure. It helps you anytime you're looking to or aspire to influence the behavior of someone else. So I think that's again, just high level essence of what we're trying to get across in the book. What is situational leadership? Where does it come from? And then how do you use it?
So thank you, Sam. I think the big idea about leadership is influence. Leaders, you have to know how to influence others. And like you rightly said, I love it. I love to make all this conversation. I want to make it practical.
Yeah.
So how can we develop our influence? Whether as you said, maybe an entry level professional or maybe even the senior leaders, how can we influence the organization or influence people so that we can get what we want?
Yeah, the biggest problem today, Bo, and I know you see this and know it as well, is how many people don't want to lead? Like how many people just, they're talented, but they take a look at, if I want to become a manager, boy, I don't want all those headaches.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier when you think about it, even in the context of crucial conversations, even if in the context of just trying to influence your peers or influence your boss. There's so many reasons not to do it. There's a risk there. When you lead, you're going to be judged, and there's no guarantee you're going to be judged favorably.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing in developing your leadership
Mhm.
is that you have to get in the game. You have to try. You have to put yourself out there. You have to articulate, your position. You need to be brave enough, to make those interventions and have those discussions. Brene Brown, has talked a lot about this in the context of a lot of her work, and she has a book called Courage,
Yeah.
and it really, being a leader,
Mhm.
it really is about courage. It's about looking at someone, talking to someone, trying to help that person, by the way, whether they want that help or not. In some cases, people are very receptive to, let me have your advice. Let me see, kind of what you have to say. In other scenarios, they're very resistant. They can kind of view you as the enemy, or as somebody that isn't like them, or, a whole variety of different things. So to me, if you want to your question, which is a really good one, you want to get better at leadership, you got to do it. And you have to recognize, you have to realize that leadership is a skill. It really is. And the more you isolate the fundamentals and the more you practice it, the better you're going to be. If you're an athlete and you want to become a better athlete, what you do is you take a look at the sport you play and the skills that you need to master, and you practice and practice and practice and practice those skills. It very similar, very, very similar thing, very similar trend with leaders. If you take a look at any leader anywhere, they've failed. They have tried and they have failed miserably. But the difference is they get back on the horse, right? They try again. They keep going. They learn. They
Right.
learn from, and they're also really strong leaders. It's been my experience anyway. They want to learn. Like they're very interested. If you've got something to tell them that they don't know, they want to know what that is
Right.
because they recognize they're only going to be as good as, they stay current with whatever's going on. So I
Uh,
think that's the biggest thing.
Thank you. That's so good. So now you have a four-step framework for situational leadership. Can you walk us through these four steps and how it looked like in our real day work?
Yeah, and anytime you say, and I'm glad you did, anytime you say you have a four-step framework, well, it's like there's a tendency to think, well, just kind of this cookie cutter, you know what I mean? Like, step one, step two, step three, like we're learning a dance move or something, and one of the criticisms that we have heard over our 50-year tenure with situational leadership is like, well, there's more to leadership than just your four steps. There really, there's a lot more to it than that. And it's like the first thing I would say to that is, yeah, of course. Like there absolutely is. Leadership's a complicated thing.
Yeah.
But the thing with situational leadership, what it does is it gives leaders a place to start. What are the steps? We've talked about them a little bit already. First off, what's the task? And that sounds easy. But the more you can break the task down to its lowest common denominator and align with the follower around what you're trying to do, the better off you are. So, what's the task is the first step. The second step is, what is the readiness of the follower to perform that task? Not in general, not kind of what is their, just their talent. What is their readiness, their ability and willingness relative to that task? So it's a task specific model. It's a follower driven model. And I think one of the big differences between the way the model is applied today, and I think a good question would be like, well, how can a model possibly that was developed 50 years ago still be relevant today? How is that even possible? Probably more relevant today than it ever has been. And the reason is because of all the change. If it wasn't for change, people would care a whole lot less about leadership.
Right.
But the fact that there's ongoing, disruptive, continuous, never-ending change, it just means that leaders and followers need to align. That's the biggest difference in the way the model is applied today, as opposed to 10 or 20 or certainly 30 years ago. In those times, it's kind of like the leader came down the mountain with the tablets, right? And sort of told people what to do, and followers sort of took their cues from the leader. Today, I mean, the leader still comes down the mountain, but doesn't have any tablets. Like nobody knows exactly what to do. So leaders and followers need to align around what is the task? What is my readiness to perform it? And when you have answers to those two questions, that is where leadership becomes common sense. If you have somebody that knows what they're doing and loves to do it, those are the people you empower. If you have somebody that has no idea what they're doing, they've never done it before, they have no clue, and they're obviously lack confidence and are intimidated by it, well that's when more structure and direction and input and close supervision makes sense. And when you have somebody that's in between those two extremes, novice and expert, that's where participation and discussion and those kinds of things make sense. So the four steps: what's the task, what's the readiness level, what's the style, and what's the movement? Are things getting better or getting worse? But something you've talked about on a couple of your podcasts is the whole idea of trust. Like, well, how do managers, how do they build trust? What do
Yeah.
they do?
Yeah. That
And
was going to be my next question, by the way. I like the fact that
no,
you're.
I mean, you can't lead. You can't lead without trust, right? I mean, you've
Exactly.
mentioned that in a very, very articulate way on a number of your podcasts. But so it's like, how does situational leadership, how does it help managers build trust? Because most managers, most people in leadership situations, they can't wait until they have trust before they do anything, right? You just don't have that luxury. So to me, you can utilize situational leadership if you, as a manager, as a boss, as an individual contributor, are giving people around you what they need and when they need it. You know, they're going to start to trust that you know what you're talking about, that you get direction when you need direction, you get left alone when you need empowerment. It's just like that. The act of leadership can help build trust. And Susie and I have talked about this. It's kind of like what the situational leadership model does, what those 4 steps allow you to do. It gives you a place to start, and it helps you form a relationship with people around the work. Like there's a task to be done, but there's also a human being, that you're working with and through to get that work done. And in the context of those ongoing interactions, situational leadership, it allows you to build trust and to build a relationship with that person over time.
So, we've been talking about situational leadership, and I want to hear some, maybe I'll call it success stories, from you over the years that you've been working with people, working with organizations. Can you share some transformational story with us in terms of
Yeah,
maybe?
and I don't want to sound like a pompous jerk, but maybe there's no other way. I mean, we have been in business for 50 years for a reason. We have under over 600 clients around the world, every conceivable industry, and so if people were to go to our website, situational.com, I mean, there are just tons of stories that have been told by our customers about here's how this model has helped our organization. There are also, with the book coming out, and by the way, I want everybody listening to this podcast to buy this book. Okay, that would be a really good thing for Susie and I. But but yeah, I mean, there are so many testimonials of how situational leadership has transformed or changed fundamentally the way people manage others. We have in every single one of our courses, everyone around the world, what we refer to as an aha moment. It's where people come into the course
Mhm,
and they learn the model, and then they go, aha, that's it. That's why my approach
mhm,
with this person for this task works, and why my approach with the same person for a different task doesn't. It's like I need to really hone my ability to adapt, not only with the person, but with the person for the task. So there's usually this transformative aha moment where leaders come to grips with the whole idea I've got to change.
yeah,
I'm the variable. What I need to do is build skills along this continuum, if you will, of leadership opportunity, direction, participation, empowerment. And what I need to do is get comfortable using all of those skills so that I can use whatever followers need, depending upon what it is, that they happen to be doing. So, in essence, again, that's kind of the transformative nature of the model and why it's been around for 50 years, why it is a foundational skill if you're going to influence people, I would suggest, with bias duly noted. But I would encourage anybody that's listening to go to situational.com. That's our website, situational.com, and just take a look at some of the stories that our many customers and others have told about. Here's how this model has helped me.
that's so good. So I like what you said about the haha moment, because I do believe that that's the point when people are changing behaviors, when people are actually being going to be able to start implementing the situational leadership framework. So as we are trying to wrap it, Sam, if every listener out there, if they could implement just one thing from today's conversation, maybe starting from tomorrow, what should it be?
Well, I think if you put me on the spot there, with the final question. I think it would be to become more thoughtful. So many of us in life, not just as leaders, but just in life, we react, right? We're impulsive. It's just like we figure out the answer before we've really even understood the question, right? And I think that happens so often with leaders. They in an effort, a very well intended effort to be responsive, what they do is they just go with what they're comfortable with. They just, if they're comfortable directing, they direct. If they're comfortable empowering, they empower. If they're uncomfortable participating, they participate. So my thing would be, if there was one thing that people would do, it's just understand those moments. Understand those moments. Feel the impulses. And before you act, think through. Just think for another minute or two. Is my impulsive gut level reaction the thing that's best for this person, this task, the other stakeholders, where so to become more thoughtful in the context of the manner in which they lead? That would be my one wish.
That's so good. And that's where we are going to end it. Sam, you are telling us to be thoughtful, starting immediately. I'll put it that way. And that's a way to develop that self-awareness and become a situational leader. Now, my listeners, they would like to connect with you so that they can continue this journey with you. Where can they find you?
Yeah, I would say again, the website situationalleadership.com. And then I think that's the best place to go. And you can, and clearly Sam Schriver, Susie Bishop, we're on LinkedIn. That's just kind of search us out on LinkedIn, and we'd be happy to connect with you and answer whatever additional questions you or any of your other listeners might have.
That's so awesome. Thank you very much, Sam, for your time with us today. You've shared tons of information, and I know me and my listeners, we appreciate this, and we will continue to lead as situational leaders. Thank you for your time, Sam.
Well, I do appreciate it, and thank you very much for all you're doing, because I think it's a very good mission, and you're the right person to do it. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that. Have a good one.
Take care.